Now for the bad news. I'm resharing this slide from last year with perhaps a newfound emphasis. In terms of the broader macroeconomic risks, I think it's vastly underreported that there is a population crisis that could cripple the global economy. In Korea, the situation is so dire, the state is paying couples $100,000 to have a child. We need population growth to support the nation's obligations for Social Security and Medicare. The trust fund that pays Social Security benefits will be insolvent by 2035, and the cost of Medicare is rising quickly. You don't have to be a mathematician to see that our Social Security system is built on a house of cards. So I feel very good about the US economy in the short term, but I think we also have to realize it's built on a very fragile foundation. So about the only good thing that I can say about the federal deficit is that it's very consistent. It's very consistently high. It is striking that deficit reform is not even in the conversation, but I think that's because neither party can offer the solution. Entitlements make up 61% of the budget, and given our rivalry with China and the AI race, space wars, and regional conflicts, there just isn't a big appetite in Washington to cut defense spending, which is about 13% of the budget. Now we spend more on interest than we do on defense, and 1 out of 4 revenue dollars goes towards paying interest. I want you to all imagine running a business where 1 in 4 of your revenue dollars went to paying interest. For every Fed cut of 100 basis points, that reduces the deficit by $90 billion, but the Fed just doesn't have the latitude to reduce rates too much because that would spark more inflation. Just 20 years ago, the federal debt was about 60% of GDP. By 2030, it's projected to be 120% of GDP. So proportionally, our debt has doubled in a span of just 30 years. Last year, I explained some of the pitfalls of being in a long-term debt cycle. Eventually, high debt manifests as crowding of investment and limits the ability for the government to accelerate or deaccelerate the pace of economic activity. History has proven that when these conditions persist, we see periods of low growth and high inflation followed by a collapse and a deleveraging. What happens in a deleveraging is lower access to credit, lower prices, lower wages, and that is what happened in the Great Depression. I'm not here to suggest that we're going to have a depression, but what I would say is, in order to mitigate these problems, the government may need to take draconian measures such as massive marginal tax increases, higher capital gains, means testing for Medicare, and most certainly increasing the retirement age. And all of these things have consequences for our economy and for our quality of life. So if you're that business owner who's pondering your future and you're thinking about an exit, here's my message for you this morning. This is the time to make hay. There is going to be all kinds of opportunities in this next business cycle as the market resets. But I might be looking at the next 5 or 6 years as a window to divest. Money will be cheaper. Private equity will be driving up valuations. So this is an excellent time for us to be positioning for the future.